everybody, welcome to another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! I like it, Mike. Repping the official shirt of the Geek Buddies there. Love it.
That's right.
Fantastic.
I love having you guys on my breasts.
Hello.
It makes for a good hump day. It's a good hump day.
Strong.
Can you make our faces dance?
Can you do? Oh! and true to form, it's me going right in the middle, knocked to the left, to the right. It's fantastic.
There you go.
For all of our podcast listeners, Mike just flexed his rippling pectorals to make our animated faces move on his shirt.
He did. It was fantastic to see for sure. We got so much going on here today. We're going to talk some Star Wars updates, the Bad Batch, the Kenobi cast, all of that. Get into some DC news with that Suicide Squad 3-minute trailer. This seems to be the new norm now lately, 3-minute trailers. And we're going to talk about Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. That dropped just as we finished our show last week, so we're kind of playing catch up on that one. Going to get into a little bit of Thundercats news, and then our main topic today will be kind of reviewing the first 3 episodes of Invincible. So hopefully you've seen it. I don't think we'll dive too much into spoilers. Maybe we might touch a little bit of spoiler stuff, but we'll see as it goes along. But encourage you all to definitely see those first 3 episodes on Amazon Prime. But let's introduce ourselves. My name is John Rocha. I'm a writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor, where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and Modern Family.
Absolutely. And you may see him very soon at a Universal Studios park near you in Hollywood. If you live in Los Angeles, you can go and see him there. He might be going back to, or he's going back to work very soon, and you might get a chance to see him do his thing as well.
You will be seeing me like this.
Oh, yeah, with the mask on still. Look for the eyes. But no, for those of you who are new, thank you so much for taking a chance on us. For those of you who are downloading us on the podcast stream as well, thank you very much. Please don't forget, the Geek Buddies are available on their separate podcast stream. So go and download that, or feed rather, go and download that. Go and subscribe there so you can hear all our voices, in case you don't want to see our pretty faces talking about the things we talk about, and all our reviews. All the audio is up there on the Geek Buddies podcast feed. And if you're coming back, thank you so much for joining us every week here as we talk all this geeky goodness. All right, the way the show works is each of us brings up a geek news item. We talk about it amongst ourselves. We do that. Each of us, all 3 of us, take a mini break and jump into our main topic. So let's get it going, because we had so much to cover today. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars is ramping up. I know this is exciting news here. We got a Kenobi cast reveal, and we got a Bad Batch trailer. Let's deal with the Kenobi cast. So many people are coming, so many people have been announced to be a part of this cast. We'd already knew that Indira Varma had been announced just a week or so ago. We knew that Hayden Christensen is coming back. Kathleen Kennedy announced that. So now we've got more now. Joel Edgerton coming back as Uncle Owen. Bobby Peasy coming back as Aunt Beru. We've also got O'Shea Jackson Jr. We've got Sun Kane. We've got so many great actors that are coming back to be a part. Rupert Friend to be a part of this series and be a part of this. And this is a 6-episode series at this point. Vogel, I go to you. Are you excited about this multicultural and diverse cast going into Tatooine or wherever we're going to go in this series?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that both, I guess Disney as a whole, but Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Star Wars universe, both are going very strong into making sure that their galaxies and superhero universes are as diverse as possible. And I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I do not think it is political. I think it is making our fantasy universes looking more like our everyday universe, and I am here for it. I think the cast is great. I think it's a really awesome looking cast of really, really talented people, variety of people who are both dramatic and comedic, which is very befitting of the Star Wars universe. Of course, as Star Wars fans, we cannot help ourselves. So as soon as we see the cast list, like you said, we got an Uncle Owen, we've got an Aunt Beru, we know Hayden Christensen, who he's playing, but beyond that, we don't really know, and of course we are going to guess, and we are going to take every character from video games, comics, and any version of Star Wars that we like, and start making guesses that Mandalorian has taught us 90% of the time will be completely incorrect.
But who's playing really Mephisto? Who's playing?
But
Mephisto?
who is Mephisto? So yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of conjecture online. Obviously, like with the Indira Varma news, we were talking about who she could be. Everyone from Duchess Satine to the second sister. Even like looking at like Moses Ingram being cast. Like the first thing I was like, oh, is she going to be Ciri from the Fallen Order game? Because she looks kind of like her. So I think that there's lots of conjecture, but overall. I'm just really stoked. I think that, I mean, it's almost like the most obvious ones or the things that we already knew still have me the most excited.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Hayden Christensen is even in Obi-Wan means we're going to be diving into stuff that I didn't really think we'd be diving into. And I think Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru actually getting a chance to do something is going to be nice. I think that, having them cast in the prequels was nice because they fit the roles and they look like younger versions of, or much more younger than the timeline would state that they should be, but still younger nonetheless. Younger versions of Owen and Beru, but actually getting to see a little bit of this dynamic of Obi-Wan watching over this chosen one versus an aunt and uncle who are like, we just want our kid to be safe. And hopefully that being a conflict that we're going to dive into. So I'm excited. I'm stoked.
Absolutely. To round out the cast here, Kamal Nanjiani, Simone Cassell, who's a New Zealand actress, and Benny Safdie, one half of the Safdie brothers who just did Uncut Gems a little over a year ago. So Shannon, as Michael mentioned, Moses Ingram, I've seen with Moses Ingram, Ray Sloan. I've seen possibly a young Ahsoka Tano being thrown out there. There's so many. Asajj Ventress has even come up in some conversations. So, first of all, what's your reaction to this incredibly diverse cast, and what's your thoughts on what we might be getting with this cast?
Well, I can't believe you didn't mention Sung Kong from Fast and the Furious.
I did. I just mentioned it fast.
Did you? You
to mirror how fast he goes in the series. But no, that's all right. Go ahead. Yeah.
You said it fast, but not furious. Sorry, that's why it didn't stick out to me.
Wow.
I think.
This is why he works at Universal. He's quick on that.
No, I think the cast is super impressive, man. I love the fact that we might get Beru and Uncle Owen and an experience with Obi-Wan where they're kind of like, whoa, we do not want this guy near this child that we're raising. I mean, I love the fact that you have an actor like Kumail Nanjiani who is who's a comedic actor. He's known for doing voiceovers, but the dude is shredded right now. So it's like, why couldn't he be a bounty hunter? Why couldn't he be somebody else? No, I mean, I think it's super exciting. And this isn't something that they've really done before, this type of cast announcement, where they literally put out like an 8x10 and say, here's everybody in the show. I mean, that's super cool. I mean, and the fact that we're going to get the Cassian Andor series before this, I think we're supposed to get it by the end of the year, I thought. Yeah. And then Obi-Wan will be next year. I mean, this is super exciting. And as far as like the Moses Ingram thing, I mean, she actually did tweet that I play with lightsabers. So automatically, because Hayden Christensen's in it, it's like, all right, are we going to get some flashbacks? Is she going to be that young Ahsoka? Is she going to be Asajj? I mean, this is all for Star Wars fans. This is an incredibly exciting time. No matter how you felt about the sequel trilogy, the fact that Star Wars is not showing any signs of slowing down is fantastic.
Yeah. Mike, you want to say something?
No, I just hadn't thought of the Ahsoka Tano flash. Timeline's weird is that I kind of feel like, would they do another casting or would they just have Rosario play her if they do younger? But like they could, like it would be interesting to see if they go down that road. Also with Hayden Christensen kind of stepping into this Darth Vader role and knowing that through Rebels and the comics and the video games, that this idea of Inquisitors, which is something we haven't really seen in live action, is kind of becoming a bigger and bigger part of the Star Wars universe. Are we going to see Inquisitors hunting down Obi-Wan? Like there's a lot of possibilities. So many possibilities that it's almost a shame it's going to be 6 episodes. So I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what we're going to get out of it.
Yeah, swing back around to you, Shannon. Bon appetit. We did our reviews of the Val. Michael, you saw the Val, so this is a very interesting thing to have on the heels of her being kind of part of our COVID lockdown pop culture reference points over the last year because of her role in the Val. But also there was a Stars series that I think she made in a couple appearances on that also detailed the stuff with the Nexium cult. So to see her coming back to the role that really made her famous of all the stuff that she endured after she got this role is kind of interesting, almost like a closing of the circle, a coming home type of thing. Don't you think, Shannon?
Yeah, I do think it's really interesting because one, I think what that showed you, her career did not necessarily take off after the prequels, and Joel Edgerton's did. I mean, he became a very prolific actor and a director, but that just kind of goes to show you that just because you get cast on one of these huge projects, it's like you have a bright path, but it's not in cement. Like it might not be permanent. And in the vow, you found out that yes, she was kind of paying her bills by going to Star Wars conventions. I mean, she's a singer, like the occasional gig that she would get. Yeah. So one, I'm sure she's thrilled to be coming back for this, but also, you see sort of this redemptive story that she had, that she was a part of this cult and she kind of had to fight her way out. I mean, she convinced her husband to go with her, and they became a part of this sort of, revolution within this cult. Yeah. And so the fact that this is kind of, the cult is now sort of in her rear view mirror, and she's looking to brighter days, and she's going to have days with two sons.
Yeah. Oh,
Tatooine.
I'm sorry, Michael. I'm sorry. That's tough.
I'm sorry. I just fell asleep for a minute.
I said two sons because Bonnie Peasy's playing Baru. They're on Tatooine.
Oh boy!
Wow! Thanks for revisiting. Thank you.
I mean, if you got to explain the joke, I feel like, well, anyway. And I'll be curious to see what O'Shea Jackson Jr. plays in this as well. I mean, he's been so great building his resume, building his reputation as an actor ever since he came out as playing his dad in Straight Outta Compton. It'll be exciting to see what role they give him in Kenobi as well. Yeah. Mike. Well,
and the other part that's really great, and we've talked about this a little bit before when we talked about the Obi-Wan series, but I think when because you don't have context, when we as Star Wars fans think of Ben Kenobi on Tatooine, we kind of picture he chilled out in his hut, he talked to some sand people, he watched over Luke, and then one day Luke showed up and he went to the Death Star and died. Yeah. And just looking at the size of this cast, and looking at the fact that Hayden Christensen is in it, Obi-Wan had some shit go down. Like there was a lot that went on from the end of Revenge of the Sith to the beginning of New Hope. And we're going to get to see a lot of that. And so it's just, again, I think they're doing a really nice job of taking something that could be a relatively small story. And clearly packing it with other things that can connect to other pieces of the Star Wars universe or open up new avenues to us. So just like with Mandalorian, I think they're taking some of these timelines that are less explored and giving us a lot more to dive into, which is just going to give us more comics, more toys, more video games, more things to debate about online, which is great.
That's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah. And hopefully it's a story that merits the 6-episode series. Because obviously we're not going to go all the way up until where Luke is 17 years old, you imagine. So, or however old he was when that whole thing started in A New Hope. So hopefully we'll get a really good story that makes it worth having done this series and bringing all these people to be a part of it. Start shooting it up in April already. And of course, Deborah Chow leading the way on this one, directing it and making it possible for us to see this. And that is the only bit of Star Wars news. The Bad Batch dropped a new trailer. We're on the precipice of this thing coming out. We're only, about a month away? I think it's dropping May 4th. What a fantastic new trailer. I love the action. Love seeing the guys go through obstacle courses. Love the new character, the new young character. I know some fans might be like, oh, they're going to use a kid, and so that's how they soften some of the stuff. But who cares? It's animated. You knew what it was. This wasn't going to be Invincible, so you knew it was going to have a little more of a softer edge to it, but still be badass. And certainly we got that from the trailer. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy that? We've got very clear that Grand Moff Tarkin seems to be the big baddie throughout this series.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the great thing about that trailer is they are not presuming that the audience has seen the Bad Batch's first appearance in the Clone Wars, because they go through and they give a brief, very, very brief introduction as to who each of these characters are. And that's also going to be, when they start the show, that probably could be the function of that child character. Is this again, that child's going to be the audience, like entering this world. I love the idea that the Bad Batch are being hunted. That you really get that A-Team vibe, and the fact that all of the clones had this thing in their head that when Order 66 happens, made them flip, and maybe because the Bad Batch were defective for whatever reason, or were different type of clones, they didn't have that, and so you get to see the fallout of Order 66 from a new point of view, which I think is going to be super, super cool.
Yeah, Mike, we're getting Hunter, Echo, Tech, Wrecker, and Crosshair, and then we're getting this new girl. She's got the Australian accent. It's on Kamino. Is this girl a clone? What is this girl? What's the situation?
So guesses would point to yes. Yeah, a lot, like, great trailer, awesome. Cannot wait for like this, because basically Bad Batch is just like Clone Wars 2.0. We're taking the characters that a lot of the characters we knew, a lot of new characters, and we are continuing in this animated universe as it continues to sync up with the live action universe. This new character, young girl, has the New Zealand accent, as you guys said, so definitely seems like she would be a clone, but all clones are exact clones of Jango Fett, and a girl would be a slightly different clone. Yeah. Now, what is interesting about her is that she is wearing a pendant on her head that is very similar to the pendant that Nala Se, who is the chief medical officer on Kamino, wears, who is one of the clones, one of the Kaminoans who knew about Order 66, plays kind of a big part in some of the Kamino arcs in the Clone Wars series. So don't know if like Nala Se was doing some experiments and that's why she's wearing a similar pendant. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but that is definitely something people are talking about. Later in the trailer, we also see this young clone character with an energy bow that is typically associated with the Night Sisters. So is there some kind of Night Sisters connection? So people are talking about that, but definitely interesting that we're introducing this new character. And it is Star Wars, so it's great to have like those younger characters, whether it be Ezra or Ahsoka or Luke himself, but some of these younger characters that are stepping into this bigger galactic adventure, that's part of the fun of Star Wars. So I think it is kind of part and parcel of the Star Wars universe to have that character. Kind of think that the Bad Batch, we might see some divisions amongst them based on the trailer, and seeing certain one character in particular who's there at some points but not there at others, and so looks like we might have some defections or Bad Batch against Bad Batch in the trailer. And then just some of the other, obviously you guys said we see Moff Tarkin, we also see a young Saw Gerrera in there, so we're gonna see more of his story. Obviously Saw Gerrera, a character who was introduced in Clone Wars animated, then most people know him when Forrest Whitaker reprised the role in Rogue One, and then Forrest Whitaker did the voice of the animated character in Rebels. But this is a younger Saw Gerrera before we get to the Saw Gerrera in Rebels, and so him playing a part. And obviously we also see Ming-Na's character Fennec Shand in the trailer, looking like she is hunting the Bad Batch. So so like lots of great Star Wars connections, and these characters do just look awesome. And and obviously, forgot the one that people are most excited about. We also see Rex in the trailer. So we know that Rex, post dealing with everything with Ahsoka at the end of season 7 of Clone Wars, is going to tie back into this story, and we're going to see what goes on with him when he is with the Bad Batch as well. So lots of Star Wars goodness to be excited about. I cannot wait. And it does premiere on May the 4th with a 70-minute premiere, so kind of supersizing the first 3 episodes together. And because May the 4th is, I believe, a Tuesday or Wednesday, people are assuming we're going to get the 70-minute supersized episode on May the 4th for all of our May the 4th be with you excitement, and then hopefully the very next episode will drop just a couple days later on Friday. So we'll get a lot of Bad Batch in 1 week.
For sure. And to make the official announcement, Laura Kelly will be coming back to join us for the reviews of Bad Batch. Confirmed it with her yesterday. And of course, there was a lot of excitement about her on Twitter. And so I reached out to her personally, and she was absolutely all guns blazing, excited to come back and hang out with us for these reviews. So she will be back to do those just like she did Mandalorian. So shout out to Laura Kelly. We might have another announcement later on in the show as well. All right. Where shall we go to next? Who's next?
I know, from a galaxy far, far away to the DC galaxy, to the DC universe. I didn't have that planned out. Sometimes the path doesn't present itself.
Sometimes.
But sometimes when the Geek Buddies record, we're so jazzed about the subjects we're talking about. We have such a good time chatting about those subjects. And literally minutes later, a big piece of news will drop, which is the case that happened last week. Minutes after we finished recording our last week's episode, the news came out that Pierce Brosnan was going to be rounding out the cast of heroes in Black Adam. He's joining Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam, Aldous Hodge's Hawkman, Noah Centineo's Atom Smasher, and Quintessa Swintel's Cyclone. So Boss Logic put up a really, really cool piece of work that he did with Pierce Brosnan, heavily bearded, like, he's been sporting that, big facial hair in the last few years for different films. Showed him with that huge gray beard in the robes, holding the helmet, and then he had another shot with the helmet on.
I think I might have that. Hold on a second. Let's take a look. There it is. That's a fantastic shot right there. I think that's what you're talking about. That's the Boss Logic one on the left. Sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah. And if you go to Boss Logic's Twitter, he has a shot with that helmet off with that beard. And Pierce Brosnan, like Black Adam, we have no idea what this movie is going to be. but at this point, the cast that's coming together, this is a really, really cool cast. I mean, I cannot wait to see The Rock trade blows with Elder Pierce Brosnan and jacked Aldous Hodge. I think this is going to be a really fun movie. We don't know what it's going to be, but so far, gentlemen, what do you think about Pierce Brosnan entering the world of DC?
Mike?
I think it's great. It's one of those things where it's like, it's just great casting in general. Sometimes you get cast like Aldous Hodge is a perfect example. Not what most people picture as Hawkman traditionally, but you're like, God, what a great actor. What great inspired casting. Different, but cool. Pierce Brosnan is, like, it's kind of like when Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Iron Man back in the day. You're just like, yeah, that just makes sense. Now I can't think of anybody else. Now I can't think of anybody else who would. And because Pierce Brosnan is a beloved actor, kind of an elder statesman in acting, it does kind of bring a little bit more gravitas to this superhero universe. It's what Marvel does really well with their casting as well. It's like you're placing some real heavy hitters in this movie that kind of says to everybody, this isn't a throwaway superhero movie. This is something we're taking seriously because we really went after some of these bigger names. And so I think that it's going to just, it definitely, with each new bit of news that they release about Black Adam, it makes me more confident that the movie's actually happening. Because with DC, there is that track record of we've got this, and you're like, whatever happened to that? But every time you get more news, you're like, oh no, this is for real, and it makes me excited, and it also reverse engineers it to make me kind of more excited about whatever's going to be happening with Shazam. Because it's Shazam, then there's the Black Adam movie, and it just seems like you're just asking for, whatever's going to happen with Shazam 2, and then these things colliding. So it just does make you, like, we talk about this all the time. I get excited when I feel like there's a plan. I get less excited when I feel like everyone's just making it up as they go along. And when I feel like there's a plan and a strategy, I'm like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And everything that's happening so far with Black Adam definitely feels like there's a bigger strategy at play that I, for one, am super, super intrigued to see where it goes.
Yeah, I am too. I love this casting news because Pierce Brosnan always brings, as Michael said, gravitas. He brings that nobility to a character like Dr. Fate, that has been around for such a long time. People have been desperate to see a version of Dr. Fate live action on screen in a movie. And so to see him being cast as this already adds more power to this. And we had the casting news that Helen Mirren is going to be in Shazam 2 as the villain. So you can tell DC is trying to find their people to bring a certain kind of weight to this story. This story is massive. This story is ages deep, ages long, occurred thousands of years ago and into the present with Black Adam and all of that. It also means that we're inching closer very clearly to the Justice Society of America with Dr. Fate, Hawkman, and others. And we'll see how that all plays out. Who's going to show up? Black Adam, I think, in one iteration was part of the Justice Society of America. So is this an anti-hero story where he's like part of them and then something happens to separate him out? And that's the tragedy of the character of Black Adam, which makes him an anti-hero and doesn't make him necessarily not that bad guy, not necessarily that kind of thing. Little Wreck-It Ralph reference, but like that's exciting too. And of course, if you're a fan of The Rock or you follow him Instagram, he had a release. He had a big Instagram video that he released speaking about when the film is going to be out, and it's a whole big Times Square thing. July 29th, 2022 is the new release date for Black Adam. So it is coming next year, not this year. It's been pushed 3 times now, I think. And this is hopefully the last one once and for all that we're going to get Black Adam coming out. Shannon?
I mean, the Rock has been associated with this role for about 8 or 9 years.
Fair.
And with DC prior to that, because for a long
Yeah.
time there was speculation that he was actually going to be Shazam. But yeah, it's coming out July 29th, 2022, roughly a year after this next movie that we got our second trailer for, or really kind of a first trailer. Like, we got an announcement trailer, we got a roll call trailer, but we got the first big look at the Suicide Squad this past Friday. Oh my gosh, like what a blast this trailer was. I mean, they definitely they are touching the past, because you do see Joel Kinnaman, you see Margot Robbie, you see Jai Courtney, you see Viola Davis. I love that Viola Davis is in kind of brighter colors, because that's not really the Amanda Waller that we got from the first movie. But this movie just look, I mean, you can think whatever you like about James Gunn, but you definitely know a James Gunn movie when you see it, and this looks unapologetically James Gunn. I mean, you have the 80s music, you have the really funny interplay between the characters. We got our first glimpse at Starro. Truly like an incredible effect, but also like, oh my gosh, this looks so ridiculous that a giant starfish is walking down the street. But I love this trailer. Gentlemen, what did you think?
Look, it checks all the boxes. I don't know. I immediately wanted to go into theater after I saw the trailer. And not a lot of trailers make me do that. This one did. Like, immediately wanted to go right in and watch it. So fun to see. So fun to see Idris Elba kind of really taking the reins here a little bit more. I wasn't sure if he was just going to be played for jokes, but I love him here as Bloodsport, what he's doing. Seeing Joel Kinnaman coming back, seeing Margot Robbie bring her unusual approach to Harley Quinn, and all of it. And then the jokes, David Dastmalchian, the Peter Capaldi jokes, him just standing there not saying anything, and they're all just telling him all the rules and stuff, was so funny. And then finding out that King Shark is voiced by Sylvester fucking Stallone. Like, that, all of it just like check all the Rocha boxes, and I can't wait to see this. And it's also why, and listen, this is I hope I say this correctly, but it also is the reason why I think Disney made the right decision with bringing James Gunn back to finish out Guardians of the Galaxy. He's this unusual flair of his, this unique style works so well for the Suicide Squad. So you can be even more excited for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So I'm over the moon over this. I can't wait to see it, and I hope it's a lot of fun. Mike?
Yeah, it's like I texted Mike Kalinowski. We can both be equally as excited about a DC movie now, and isn't that great? I am so... I mean, I would actually say, given the fact that even though I think Wonder Woman is amazing, and is the first one, not 84, but the first Wonder Woman is one of my favorite movies, I would say I went into that with trepidation. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I saw Wonder Woman, but I wasn't as excited as I am right now. I think the Suicide Squad is my most... anticipated DC movie of recent memory to come out, and it's largely due to James Gunn. I mean, just him being attached to it gave me the utmost confidence. All the trailers from DC, all of the announcements from DC fandom, and all the interplay between the cast gave me excitement, and this trailer definitely gave me a ton of excitement. It also, now we get to start playing the fun game, because there was very little that was announced aside from the cast and who the characters were. But now when you start to really break down the trailer, you start to figure out, A, what the movie's about, where it's going to take place within the DC universe, location-wise, and you start to really put in some educated guesses on which one of the Suicide Squad is cannon fodder and which one of the ones are actually going to make it through this movie. I have a feeling we're going to open up this movie with a very elaborate Suicide Squad mission that goes horribly wrong. And given the fact that the trailer opens with a team coming in to rescue Harley, and she's holding a javelin, I have my guesses on who the first villain is to go down. So I think it's really fun and exciting. The Starro stuff is awesome. This is what James Gunn does really well in Guardians, and it looks like he's bringing it to DC, which is taking some of the more ridiculous, out there, what the fuck, why would you ever put this on screen? Whether that is a talking raccoon who has a tree who's a best friend, or a giant star with tiny stars that's going to take over people's brains, James Gunn is definitely the guy to bring this to live action and make it feel grounded and silly and real. And King Shark is already tracking to become everyone's favorite. And King Shark gets a lot of love. I gotta give King Shark between the Flash on CW and the Harley Quinn animated series, and now Suicide Squad. King Shark is a villain whose time has come, and I am very happy for him. I'm very happy for him.
We also got a really good look at John Cena's Peacemaker, which, they had talked about him being sort of the very extreme Captain America. And judging from his first exchange with Idris Elba, I'm like, extreme and also kind of petty. It's definitely setting the stage for what that Peacemaker series that James Gunn is writing that's going to be on HBO Max as well. So I think, suffice to say, the three of us are very, very excited for the Suicide Squad, and we will be seeing it August 6th on HBO Max and in theaters.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's go ahead, man.
No, I also just want we talk about it all the time, but just huge shout out to Margot Robbie.
Yes.
Despite whether you love DC movies or you're not the biggest fan of DC movies, and the three of us are really varied on that front, so we kind of come from all aspects on this. Suicide Squad, not most people's favorite DC movie. Birds of Prey kind of split down the middle. Some people really like it. Some people feel like it didn't hit the mark. But the fact that Margot Robbie's take on Harley Quinn has just sustained throughout, that we've all just agreed that whether the rest of the movie is part of a continuity or not part of a continuity, we don't really care. Margot Robbie has really made Harley Quinn her own, and that's hard to do with a character that's so iconic already. And so just props to her, because everything in the trailer revolving around her kind of saying she can go back in so that they can rescue her talking about personalized license plates. It's she's really owned this role in a great way, and I think it's awesome to see.
Yeah, and you mentioned Boss Logic, Shannon. Here's his take on Balboa, there, Rocky as King Shark, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He also had a Rambo one I couldn't get up in time, where all these grenades are flying at him, and he's just standing there with the classic hunting knife from Rambo and the helmet on. So fantastic stuff from Boss Logic. He's killing it right now. And his NFT for the recent UFC fight that happened over the weekend just sold for $450,000. So shout out to my man making money hand over fist for his designs. All right, where are we off to next, Mikey? What do you got for us?
Well, we are off to Third Earth on our next announcement. Adam Wingard having a big week. As we are recording this, today is the day, Wednesday, hump day, and it is the day that Kong versus Godzilla is finally out on HBO Max and in theaters.
Yes.
I have a date this evening with one of my fellow Geek Buddies and Mr. Kalinowski to go see it in a theater.
Oh,
Mr.
enjoy,
Rocha
boys.
Would join us. Mr. Rocha would join us if he lived up here, obviously.
And maybe I've already seen it, but go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So everyone's very excited to see who is going to win in this ultimate SmackDown, but everyone is equally as excited as, in addition to it being announced that Adam Wingard is attached to sort of a face-off sequel that he is going to be working on, it has also been announced that Warner Brothers is giving him the reins to helm and direct a big screen adaptation of everybody's favorite cat people, the Thundercats.
Oh.
Thundercats ho! One of the top 80s brands. When anyone who grew up in the 80s, there's He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats. Those on the boys action side are the main four. And the Thundercats are ones that people have tried and talked about it. There have been big screen adaptations. There's been 2 different animated series, neither of one that was a huge hit, both on Cartoon Network. One that was much more adult, one that was much more younger in a Teen Titans Go sense. Didn't quite hit the mark, but despite all of that, the story of Lion-O and the other Thundercats who leave Thundera, come to Third Earth, and have to fight mutants of Plundar and Mum-Ra, as batshit crazy as it is, has somehow sustained, and people are obsessed with it. And one of the people that was obsessed with it was Adam Wingard. In the Deadline article where they're talking to him about it, he reveals that when he was in high school, long before he knew he was going to be making movies, he hand wrote a Thundercats screenplay that he took very seriously for his entire sophomore year of high school, and would tell people about it, and didn't realize that when people asked him questions about it, they were making fun of him because that's a really nerdy thing to do. But now here he is, all grown up and getting to do it. And I think the best part about his announcement is that he made it very, very clear that this movie is going to be a some kind of CGI animation special effects hybrid, and that he's very clear on the fact that the Thundercats will not look like
Ooh.
the characters in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats, because we have all seen that and we don't want to see it again.
No more butthole
so
cuts.
it's going to be really no more butthole cuts here. But yeah, so I'm super excited about this. Thundercats was one of my faves growing up, and I'm excited for the potential. It also has the potential to be horribly, horribly wrong.
True.
But we will see. What do you guys think? How do you feel about a Thundercats big screen adaptation?
I mean, I grew up when they were first coming out, so I can't tell you how excited I am to see this happening. It's like He-Man kind of goes the way it goes in my mind, but Thundercats has always endured for whatever reason. Just the opening song, the characters they wrote to Chitara, and other things keep me excited about Thundercats. So having Wingard, especially having seen Godzilla vs. Kong, all I'll say is this excites me that this director is involved with this project. I look forward to see what he's going to do. I look forward to see his approach to it and the designs, what he comes up with, what he creates. So it's exciting. You've got a good, strong director behind this. Sometimes you have to wait for the right one to come along to finally put a project over the finish line. This feels like it's the right person at the right time for this piece, and I can't wait to see what he creates. So absolutely excited about it. What about you, Shannon?
I mean, super interested. Like, I'm not overly familiar with his directing. I've seen The Guest, which was a really kind of cool,
fantastic,
weird horror movie.
Yeah.
I will probably have a better sense of how I feel after watching Godzilla vs. Kong.
Okay.
The route he's choosing to go, I find really interesting, because I feel like, Warner Brothers has the rights to Thundercats. There have been rumors that they've been trying to do like a live action version for a very long time. And it's one of those properties. It's like, how do you make this work with people? Like it's not to say that it can't, but it's like, this is a challenge. But the fact that they're taking an 80s animated series and giving it the big screen CGI animated treatment, I'm like, this is a unique swing. I don't feel like this has really happened. I mean, like, they did it with the Transformers movie, but that was back in the 80s, and that was when that property, the cartoon was, hot. Right. This is going to be an interesting project, and I don't think there's going to be any middle of the road here. I think it's either going to be a tremendous success or it's going to come out in the middle of September. We'll see.
Or January. Yeah.
Or January.
Certainly possible, but we'll see. All right. Is that it? Any other update on that, Michael? Is that it?
That is it. More to come on Thundercats. We will definitely keep you posted.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break here, and after that, we'll jump into our main topic, and that's discussing the first 3 episodes of Invincible. We'll be right back. What was that? I don't know. Was that?
That is Amazon Prime. When you start the app on your TV, that is the little sound.
I don't think I've ever heard a sound with Amazon Prime, but okay.
It's there.
No, I'm not going to fight it. I don't know. I just know the Netflix one.
Boom.
Yeah.
Wake up! I got it. Anyway, yeah, this as Shannon just mentioned here, Amazon Prime has released the first 3 episodes of Invincible. This happened just a few days ago. We'll be releasing another episode here on Friday. But all of us have been fans of the comics and enjoyed these characters. This is from Skybound Entertainment with Robert Kirkman. I host SEN on the Sport Entertainment Network, which is part of the Skybound Entertainment. So I'm trying to, just giving you my honest thing right off the bat. But I was absolutely excited for these to come out. It took me a while to get around them because I really wanted to find like 2 hours where I had nothing to interrupt me. Watch them this morning, and now we're going to discuss them. Mikey, I go to you first. You're our comics guy here. What was your feeling about this overall start to Invincible, and how great do you feel or not great do you feel about how they've transferred the comic into an animated series form?
I feel really great about it. I have a personal story attached to this. When I was at Sony Television as an executive years ago, I tried to get the rights to Invincible. Met with Robert Kirkman, producer Dave Alpert, and then when I went to Hasbro Studios, I also tried to get Hasbro together with them to do it, and came kind of close. Like, there's a lot of meetings. There was actually even a couple flights to Rhode Island, and I'm really glad it never happened. I'm really glad that I failed on that front, because that would have been a different kind of adaptation of Invincible that wouldn't have been what this is. And what this is despite the fact that they've sort of adapted the story, moved some things around, this is a very, very true adaptation of what Invincible is in the comics to the big screen. It's actually really interesting because when Invincible was first released as a comic book, it was at a time in like the early 2000s when DC and Marvel were taking themselves really seriously. There was a lot of like really big epic shattering the universe storylines, and Invincible came along and kind of like, while being a serious superhero story, also kind of made fun of the superhero universe. And it's interesting that Invincible is coming out now because it's almost like now the world or moviegoers in general, the more average moviegoer, is much more familiar with superhero universes, with between the Marvel universe, the DC universe, all the movies that have come out. So it's the right time for something like Invincible to come along. I think it's great. I think that they really wisely took one of the big plot twists that was about a year into the comics and moved it right up into the very first episode, dove right into the story. I think that they're adapting the story really smartly. And I love that the episodes are 45 minutes long. You really, when you're working in animation, when you're writing for animation, when you're doing a 22-minute show, it tends to be really plot driven because you're trying to fit all the action scenes and everything. So you don't get a lot of time. You're lucky if you get like one moment where you can have like a really quiet character scene, because you're really driving towards where's the next action sequence? How are we going to stop the bad guy? What are the plot threads we need to do? Yeah. And the fact that these episodes are 45 minutes long means you're getting a ton of superhero action, but you're also getting these really quiet, beautiful character moments that almost feel like something you're more used to seeing in an anime, where they really do focus on emotional beats a lot. And so that's really refreshing. I'm just super happy about the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Shannon, this has been an incredible transfer for me personally. I've been enjoying it like crazy. Ripped through those episodes. Could have kept going. I mean, I really could have finished this in one day. And they're 45, 50 minutes each episode, which is excellent, as Michael just pointed out. But you've got the story of Mark Grayson. This is the kid, the titular Invincible, who has to figure out how to be a hero. And his father is hiding the secret, as Michael said, that they moved up to the first episode, which was, like he said, a year into the comics. Pretty incredible to see that as a side story playing itself out while we're also following along as this kid discovers how to be a superhero. After the entire other superhero team is incapacitated, for lack of a better term, he joins this kind of Teen Titans type of squad, and it figures, and is like, he's got stuff going on in his personal life. He's got stuff going on with these Teen Titan heroes and all of that. Now he's being asked to take on more than he should be taking on, probably as such a young hero. So it's a lot to navigate and follow, but it's enjoyable to navigate and follow all the different story beats that they're laying out, and all the incredible characters and all the phenomenal voiceover work that's being done here. What's your feeling overall after you've watched these first 3 episodes?
So I had not read the comic. I knew of its existence.
Yeah.
I knew of its existence. The trailers, nothing really grabbed me about it. Like, I knew that they had a really stacked cast. But in terms of just the beats that they were throwing out there, the animation style, I was like, I'm gonna watch it because I know how much you guys like it, and I know how much how popular it was. But in full disclosure, like, because the episodes were so long, I have a bad habit of starting shows and kind of watching them with one eye. So I got to the end of the 3 episodes. I mean, and they're like some of the big twists. I did text Vogel at one point because I was like, oh man, this just happened. Wow. But I got to the end of the 3rd episode and I'm kind of like, it's not really hooking me.
Wow. Okay.
But last night I couldn't sleep very well. My allergies were acting up. So I woke up very early this morning. I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and turn it back on because I know we're going to talk about it. And, truth be told, I didn't pay the closest attention to it. And going back and watching it again and giving it my full undivided attention, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. Like, there are definitely still parts that I'm kind of like on, like Seth Rogen's character, for instance. That sequence, I was like, I don't know. I don't know about this part, but I really like the relationship between Mark and Eve. Like, I'm like, ooh, this is a really interesting relationship. Like, Zazie Beetz' character, the scene that they had, I think it was in the 3rd episode. I was like, these are really, really good scenes. The performances across the board are dynamite. They are just dynamite. I mean, Jason Mantzoukas is hysterical. I think Zachary Quinto is doing some really, really great work. The design of Omni-Man, is that comics accurate, that costume?
Yeah.
I don't love the costume. Like, I don't love the look of him. He's just, look, there it is.
Pretty accurate.
He's so, like, it's just so jacked J. Jonah Jameson to me. And I'm like, this is so distracting. And because it is J.K. Simmons' voice who played J. Jonah Jameson for all the Sam Raimi movies, I was like, this is a weird kind of worlds colliding thing that's happening. But I am, after paying attention to it, I am much more invested in the story, and I am very, very curious to where it's going. I mean, John Hamm's White House security guard, like, I don't know if he is a runner, if he's going to come back, but it's one of those things that I'm watching. I'm like, wow, White House security is really lax in this world. But I think John Hamm is hysterical, and I'm like, this is going to be a really funny runner if this has nothing to do with the plot going forward. That's and I think that's another thing, is because I didn't. The tone was a little difficult for me to nail down, because I was like, is this serious? Is this, like, there are some very funny moments, and then there are some very bloody moments. So it's sort of like, what is this tone? But now hearing that it came out at a time when Marvel and DC were being very self-serious. So I was like, okay, well, that makes more sense.
Okay. And what the comic did, one of the benefits, I guess, of the big moment that we won't spoil, but the big moment that happens in the first episode, the way it happened in the comics, it's like, for the first year, Invincible was kind of this really bright, colorful superhero universe that was kind of funny and quirky, and was like kind of treating the world of superheroes as a little bit more mundane. You know, like, they don't deal with secret identity stuff. Like, you know, Debbie knows that Omni-Man is off fighting a kaiju and he's going to be late to dinner. And it was very much that kind of tone. And so it kind of presents you with this bright, shiny world. And then a year in, when something happens that you're like, fuck. And Robert Kirkman said early on, like, he really wanted Invincible to be a comic that was about dealing with violence. And, like, when superhero comics, we take all of this epic action, world buildings getting collapsed, people getting the shit kicked out of them, and it's like that's what a comic book is. Invincible, the comic, and now the animated series, is purposely designed. Like, there's a reason that the show is as bright and colorful as the comic book was. They brought the comic book, Cory Walker, the guy who drew the comics, actually has never designed animation before, but came in to do the animation designs for the show to make sure it was as much like the comic as possible. And it's bright, beautiful, gorgeous, so that when super violent things happen, your brain goes, fuck. Yeah. Like, I'm not expecting this, because it's kind of making a commentary on what we're used to in superhero comics, and knowing where future seasons can go. The big reveal in the first episode is a huge reveal. It is by no means the only big shocking thing that happens in Invincible. Invincible, over its 15-year run, had enough shocking beats to fill many seasons. And even characters that you're not sure about, like Seth Rogen's character Alan the Alien, has a whole lot more to do. And so Robert Kirkman has already sort of teased the fact that they may be doing some pre-production on season 2, that if it does well on Amazon, they'll probably more. And they've really kind of taken all these major arcs in the comics and already figured out how to rearrange the story to say that, okay, season 1, these 8 episodes are going to be about this reveal that happened. But once we get past that, the next thing is going to be this, the next thing is going to be this. And what Invincible did a good job of doing is constantly confronting this bright primary superhero world with the realities of some really horrible, shitty things. And Mark's arc as a superhero is navigating what it means to be a superhero in a way that most comics don't have a superhero do. Most superheroes comics deal with very black and white worlds. This Invincible is a world where you really get into the grays, and I'm excited to see them continue to do that after watching the first 3.
Well, that's why I think Amazon Prime is the perfect place for it. Just like The Boys. You know, The Boys challenges it. Also violent, not as brightly colored, obviously, but a twist itself within the first episode of what they make Starlighter do, or what's his face makes her do. All of that, it kind of like the deep, right? It kind of puts you in a place of like, oh, what's this all about? And you've got something that's a companion piece here that shows you that there's a brutality to the superhero world that people don't explore or talk about often enough. And I like that they put it on the table. In fact, the first episode did a great job of that. The first 30 minutes, you're like, oh, this is cool. This is great. Oh, so they are going to say, and then all of a sudden it happens. And when it happens, you're like, holy shit, they did this. They really did it. And in such graphic, brutal fashion that I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is the way it's presented is really well done. I really enjoy the character. Let's give some love to the voiceover people here. Stephen Yeun is Mark Grayson. Sandra Oh is his mom, Debbie Grayson. Shannon already mentioned J.K. Simmons is Nolan Grayson. Zazie Beetz as Amber Bennett. And she's always said Amber Bennett. It's interesting. Greg Griffin is Kevin Michael Richardson is killing it as the Mauler twin. For the love of God, especially in the third episode when they're having that back and forth in prison. Holy Mary. Brilliant stuff. Walton Goggins as Cecil Stedman. Jillian Jacobs, so great to see her again after having watched Community, gone to that run of Community. I didn't like Love, but it's great to see her again jumping onto this, and I'm enjoying her as Eve. You mentioned Jason Mantzoukas, Zachary Quinto. Mark Hamill popping up as the designer du jour for superhero costumes. Art Rosebaum, Seth Rogen. You mentioned Kari Payton shows up as Black Samson. We're big fans of Kari Payton here. But Clancy Brown as Damien Darkblood, essentially Etrigan as a detective. I was 1,000% excited about this to see how it would transfer, and it transfers over so well. He's the perfect voice for it. And they're giving you some storylines here, some subplots to really connect to and watch to see how they're going to connect. If you've read the comics, you know, but you're always wide open to see how an animated series, especially as Mike mentioned, how they changed the big reveal in the first episode. You're looking to see how they make these pieces all now line up as you go forward. So I'm excited about that overall. As War Woman, she was great as War Woman. Michael Cudlitz was in this thing as well. And Lenny James is Darkwing for the first episode. Jamin Hansu, Sonequa Martin Green. This is the guy, Gary Anthony Williams, Sean Patrick Thomas. This is the kind of voiceover cast.
On and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's huge. And like that scene between Mark and Zebby as you know, when he has gotten home at night.
Amber Bennett.
No, Mark and his mom.
Oh, his mom.
Debbie.
I thought you said Amby. My bad.
No, like that moment where you have a mom dealing with a superpowered child. Really, really interesting. I mean, like I feel like that's touching on some stuff that, I mean, I haven't seen before. I mean, I know it's been in the comics, but just that whole idea of the potential of absolute power corrupting absolutely. I mean, really, really, again, like that was a moment that I missed the first time because I was like on my laptop or something. But watching her and Stephen Yeun going back and forth, I was like, wow, this is a very interesting dynamic, and just seeing how the whole idea of dealing with a child who could potentially throw you into space. So enjoyable.
Yeah, directed by Jeff Allen, this whole series. Michael, what are some of the scenes that stood out for you in the first 3 episodes? I mean, you show run, you're an animation genius here. What stood out for you as you were watching these first 3 episodes?
So animation genius, you say?
Well, listen.
Ooh. Actually, the scene that Shannon was just referencing, I mean, that's kind of what I meant about having that 45-minute runtime allows you to kind of have these character moments. And that scene with Debbie and Mark, where he does kind of try and step into his superhero-ness and realize that nobody can stop him, and she as a mom just dresses him down. And then the entire discussion that they have, but to the point you were talking about, John, the scene with Mark and Amber, Zazie Beetz, the whole typical I'm on a date but I have superhero duties and everything, and like the way they play all that, like it all feels real. It feels more modern. Invincible doesn't tread new superhero territory necessarily. It kind of treads the kind of stories that superhero comics have told, but it treads them in a way that treats everything more realistically in a way, and takes a character's superpowers or the way a superpower would work and kind of turns it on its head, the way it does with Monster Girl in the 3rd episode, where you're kind of like, okay, I didn't think about it that way. I as an animation person, just a shout out to the animation in general. I believe they use this overseas studios Maven that does most of the DC animated movies. And look, the DC animated movies are really, really good and well done. We've been talking about it on Twitter. I just went through and watched all the DC animated movies that I hadn't seen, and I know that we were all chatting about them, and they're really well done and really well animated. But with Invincible, you see what happens when you, I would imagine, are given a little bit of a longer production schedule and a good bit more of a budget. And you can really see like the quality of animation here is amazing. And the two main places where you really focus on quality of animation are, one, in your action, obviously, and two, in your acting, because both of those things are very different, and some studios are good at one and some studios are good at the other, and here you have a studio that's really good at both. So when you really do cut loose in some of these big action sequences where you're fighting an alien army or you're fighting a supervillain at Mount Rushmore, and they really let that camera work go, and you really look at how they've laid out these scenes and done this animation, and you're like, this looks great. But then you turn it right around and you have a quiet moment between two characters, and you can really see like the subtlety of acting. And so I think it's like it's the animation is, I can't think of a primarily 2D animated show. Obviously there's some CG effects and stuff like that, but I can't think of a 2D show that has this quality of animation on television. I mean, obviously we have our shows like Clone Wars and some of those other things, but this is just in a class of itself from an animation standpoint. I enjoy the training when they're trying to pick out the new team. That was hilarious. The little girl character, oh my god, just genius on so many levels. Monster Girl, just seeing all of that change, like you mentioned, Michael, there is fantastic. I agree, the mother's scene with him. I also think the scenes with him and Eve are very sweet and tender. You can see this connection growing, but you can also see that he has this almost like there's Invincible and then there's Mark outside the suit, and Mark is having this thing with Amber Bennett while Invincible is maybe fostering these feelings for Eve. Where's that going to lead? I love what we see Eve discover in the third episode with Mark and Amber and her reaction to it. That was really cool too. So all of that, and then of course the twist we get at the end is okay, where are we going to go with this? Also, there's more to explore here between Debbie and Omni-Man for sure. We're going to get hopefully some more background to see what that was all about, see how that came to be. Because I mean, I imagine being married to a guy who can destroy an entire civilization in a few hours has its own situations where you have to kind of put your foot down, and what kind of power does she bring to the situation to be able to put her foot down with Omni-Man and keep him from flying off the ledge. And listen, that scene where he punched Mark, that was an awesome scene, because if you've had one of those fathers, you know that moment. Oh, you feeling yourself? Whoop, bam! Oh my God. And you go down and you're just like, what's this all about? And it's about male, but that's going to reverberate obviously as we go forward and be something that is a touchstone that we come back to. It really reminded me in a good way, one of my favorite scenes in Incredibles is the scene where Elastigirl is on the beach at No Manassan Island and kind of tells Dash and Violet, like, this is real life. Like, if these people see you, they're going to try and kill you. And like when Incredibles came out, it was great because like no superhero ever really had this is real life. And this scene with Omni-Man and Mark where he punches him and kind of says, look, if you want to do what I do, people aren't going to pull your punches. And it's moments like that, or it's moments where in Invincible's first big battle, like he pukes, he like freezes up and he pukes, and like him and Eve have that great conversation later where she's like, oh yeah, was that your first battle? Okay, now it makes sense. Yeah, she's like, it was rough for me too. And like there is it's weird. By taking these superhero tropes that we know so well, but putting real people in them who react real. It makes it feel fresh and new. And The Boys does it in a very specific way, which is people are inherently assholes and horrible people, and this is what would happen. And that's what makes The Boys so great. Invincible's a little bit more, I don't want to say innocent because it's certainly not that. Hopeful. Maybe hopeful is the right word. But yeah, like as Mark is stepping into this world, like it's the simple realities. It's the reality that they took an extended scene for Omni-Man to explain how they fly. And not just say, yeah, we're super, we fly. He's like, the way that we can bounce off of nothing. Like there's explanations and discussions about the most typical thing from how we fly to what your first battle is like to where you would get a superhero costume that is very, very fun. And again, like I said, knowing where every character from Mark to Eve to Debbie to Omni-Man to Alan the alien to Monster Girl to Robot. Like having read the entire run of Invincible and loved it from beginning to end, knowing where all of these characters are going to get to go if we do get more seasons, like I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Any final words before we wrap up on this? Anything else we want to say about the first 3 episodes?
I think Omni-Man taking Mark to get his first suit was a very, very like reminiscent of The Incredibles, but very, very funny scene that the suit maker that makes prom dresses during the day so he can make superhero suits and wanting to push unsold merchandise. I was like, oh, that's a really funny beat and also something that's totally applicable to the real world. Like, yeah, you have your discount rack over here.
Right. Absolutely. So much more to come, I'm sure. We've got, 5 more episodes because it's an 8-episode series, which is almost sad to get all 3 episodes at once because now we only have 5 more weeks to enjoy this thing for sure. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies as well. It was a lot of fun bringing you this episode, talk about all the great stuff in the Week of Geek. I kind of like that term now. I'm going to be using it. The Week of Geek is fantastic.
You can take it. You're the boss. You take it.
We should hashtag it and put it on the shirts. That would be fantastic. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, I'd like to follow us on social media. On Twitter, it's @geek_buddies. On Instagram, @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, @Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is @MK2. And if you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is @The Rocha Says.
Mike?
As you can tell from our super packed episode this week, our long journey through the desert of no news has come to an end. And so as more of these things are announced, as more things go back in production, as more things finally come out on streaming services, as more things finally come out in theaters and we can actually go to theaters again safely, there's going to be a lot more stuff to talk about, and we love talking to all of you guys about it. So if you are enjoying these conversations and want them to continue, like Johnny said, a couple things you can do is definitely click the like button below, subscribe to the Outlaw Nation page where there is all kinds of amazing content, some geeky, some less geeky, all awesome. Leave us comments below. We love to check them out. We want to know what you think about this stuff. What are you most excited about? What did you see in the Suicide Squad trailer or the Bad Batch trailer that we didn't touch on that you think is super important? What are you thinking of Invincible? Let us know all about that. We want to continue the conversation. If you're listening to us on Anchor or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, definitely leave us some stars there. Leave us some comments there. It helps us go up in the rankings. And the best thing that you can do, which we love, is retweet this video, tell people how awesome it is, hashtag Geek Week of Geek, because that's our new thing now, and I'm super here for it because I made it up. So do whatever, get us out there, spread the word, and most importantly, hit us up and let us know what you think because we love it.
In case anyone else made it up, we're not really serious about that. So just in case,
it's all mine. No one has ever put those 3 words together before, and no one will again.
All right, let's get our lawyers on the phone, get some copyright going and get it on it. All right, anyway, we're out of here. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you next time on another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies. Hey!